you've pointed to a couple studies in the last week that show how the wage gap's affecting the way women make investing decisions, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, look, I mean, this, I saw some headlines last week, the wage gap is slowly closing. That's not slowly closing. I mean, that's like Alexander Hamilton saying it would close to, in our time. It's not moving. And what's really discouraging is it's not moving despite all the energy around it, all the conversation around it, and all the research that tells us that putting more money in the hands of women is good for everybody, good for the economy, good for the markets, good for everybody.
Why? Why isn't it closing faster? That's the part I don't get, because we're definitely talking about it more, and folks like you are taking very concerted steps to try and change it. So why is it still so slow?
Well, because if you don't have to pay somebody more than you have to pay them, you don't pay them more than you have to pay them, right? And the money drops down to the bottom line. There are very few CEOs, Mark Benioff at Salesforce is one of them, but there are very few CEOs besides him who said, you know what? We're going to go right on through, look at our company, look where there are gender pay gaps, and close the friggin' things. You don't have much transparency. And without much transparency, I mean, you think about it as a woman, how much do you even go and ask for as a raise if you don't have transparency that you're making less than the guys are? So with lack of transparency and the desire for profits, this thing, it just isn't closing.
Sallie, it seems like this hasn't yet been framed as a societal problem in a way that everybody's on board looking for solutions. When I look through Twitter, social media, the conversations around it, there's still whataboutism arguments about, well, maybe women aren't making X amount because of this. Maybe they just have different investing styles. Do you see us getting to a different point as far as framing this issue?
Yeah, I don't know about framing. I mean, look, again, the research has been there for forever that this is a good thing. Diversity at senior leadership is a good thing. Diversity throughout companies is a good thing. We're seeing it. The Pax Elevate Global Women's Leadership Fund, of which I'm partial owner, shows that companies that have more women in senior leadership outperform those that don't. Those that have more women on boards outperform than those that don't. And yet it's not enough. The prospect of, gosh, we can have better returns, lower risk, make more money is not enough to really break through the way we've been socialized, that men are CEOs, men are business leaders, and of course, people are sort of more comfortable working with themselves. That's why, I founded Ellevest. I founded Ellevest to build a company from the ground up that is diverse and takes advantage of that cognitive diversity. At the same time says, if it's going to take 200 plus years to close this gender pay gap, then let's close the gender investing gap, which is costing the women who are watching this hundreds of thousands, for some of them millions of dollars over the course of their lives. Let's solve a different problem and build a company the right way through Ellevest.
Yeah, that's a great point, Sallie. And your point about socialization is important, too. I was stunned by this UBS study. 23% of women take charge of long-term financial planning decisions at home, less than a quarter?
Yeah, I know. And that, again, starts in childhood. There's research that tells us that parents speak to their children differently about money. For the little boys, it's about making money, building wealth. For the little girls, it's about be careful, save. We get older. Women's magazines talk to us about financial planning as being difficult and hard to do. And they give us advice like, don't buy the latte. I mean, how many times on your TV show have you guys talked to each other about don't buy the latte? Like, never. And then we get into, modern television, and Carrie Bradshaw on Sex and the City, who's a very accomplished woman, buys too many pairs of shoes and can't afford her apartment. So as women, we receive these messages that long-term financial planning is hard to do, investing is not for us, and look, let's look at ourselves here on Wall Street. The majority of the employees, certainly on the trading floors, money managers, are men. The industry symbol is a bull. It's a phallic symbol, so we women receive the message, this is not for us.
Sallie, I can't help but think that there's a business opportunity here, and this is the part that I don't understand in terms of why Wall Street isn't seizing on. If women are more prone to cash or they're underinvested, I mean, that's more than half of the population that banks, fund managers, et cetera, could be tapping into for future growth.
Well, that's exactly right, and many of them have, and they all rolled out marketing programs. In fact, I remember marketing programs for this niche market. The issue is not that women aren't being marketed to. The issue that we are addressing at Ellevest, we were the first one to say, okay, marketing has to be right, but so does the product. right? The technology has to be sophisticated. The finance has to be sophisticated. Real innovation is not typically along one dimension. It's along several dimensions. And so we said the same thing. We said, gosh, women control $7-8 trillion of investable assets. They're not investing as much as men do. Rather than market to them and tell them, you know, they have to change, why don't we build a product for them? And I'm happy to tell you that Ellevest is one of the fastest of the digital-first investment advisors out of the chute to grow to $100 million, $200, $250 million of assets under management because we've hit that sweet spot.
Well, I'm thinking of the Fearless Girl statue outside this very building where we are, Sally. So maybe things will change at a faster pace over time.
You know, look, we need more than publicity stunts. You know, it is not a surprise that an industry that is not particularly diverse, does not have many women, is not doing a great job for women. So statues are fantastic. You know, really serving this client is even better.